Welcome to Lesson 8. We want to talk about choosing your career, making a choice, and I think this will be something that may help you as you're considering this transition. Now, you've already started working on your goals. You've started finishing, hopefully, the articulation, where we ask you some specific questions about your goals, and now what we want to do is talk about choosing your profession, because you may want to make some changes. And this is certainly open to change. We want you to keep an open mind through this entire process. So today, let's sit back and look at some things about choosing professions, how it's all happened. Despite problems, individuals will still proceed to some type of work environment. How they make the choices between being a manager, a worker, a doctor, or a nurse's aide. How do they do that? Have you asked yourself why you are what you are? How did you make them? By hook and crook? Did you make them by accident or whatever? So these are choices that we're going to make. We have a lot of road signs that we can see at this point. So as you are now considering finishing this course, you're choosing your professional development, you're looking at things about the master's degree, you're looking at if you're going to go to law school or where you might go. All of this is so important because you have these roadsides pointing in a different direction. And even company or industry, you're going to stay on a career path or you may deviate from the career path. Why do we stray from a safe career to an unsafe career, the known to unknown, or from high-paying to sometimes low-paying? You go in that direction, you say, well, you know, I don't know if I want to take the chance to change careers. Am I too old? Am I too set in my ways? These run through your mind, and you sometimes are not able to make a decision because you're just afraid of what might happen. But you've always wanted that career. You've always wanted that change. And sometimes you might change from a high-paying career, as mentioned in the previous slide, to a low-paying career just because you need something new. You need a good career. One of the things that's interesting about finishing your bachelor's degree may be that when you change jobs, you may not, in essence, obtain as high a salary as you had before because you're starting maybe at a lower level. You may be starting at a level that's considerably lower. And so this is important to think about, that I may be 47 years old, and at this point in time, I'm going to start a new career, but the problem I'm running into is they're going to pay me less in my new career because I'm not going to get the credit for the experience. Now, in this course, Occupational Ed 4350, we are looking at credit for your previous knowledge. Well, let's consider some things. Why do we change, or why do we make our choices? Let's look at them. First is family, business, or tradition. This is important. Some of you have been in a career just because of tradition or your family business, and you've just taken it on. Your mom and dad held this business down. Now you're in it. This happens in a lot of businesses like funeral homes and different small stores, perhaps more prevalent years ago than it is today. But sometimes this is important because you have made that choice. Not because you wanted it, it's because you gravitated toward it because it was your parents. A second reason may be because you had poor experiences early in life. So you thought about, well, you know, what am I going to do? And you found out that doing certain types of work was not good. You really didn't like it. Boy, my dad worked late hours as a police officer, and as he worked as a police officer in these shifts, I did not want to be one. Or your mother was a nurse or a physician and was gone so much you said, no, that's not for me. So when you gravitate toward things, sometimes if you've had a bad experience in early life. Another reason, or third reason, is the lack of opportunity. You've really not seen other types of careers. You've really had no opportunity to be exposed to different careers. That seems to be very prevalent in individuals who have come from a low socioeconomic background. They've never had the chance to be exposed to different careers, and that's true with the children. in those areas where the children have never had an opportunity to see other types of careers, so they are limited in exposure. Another thing that some people do is just a personal choice. I made the choice to become. The fourth one I think is a good one to think about, personal choice. I make a choice to become something. I make this personal choice, and that's my choice. Whatever I did, I just looked at it, and that's what I wanted to be. Some people know from the very beginning that's what I want to do. So they make that personal choice. And that's another reason that people do that. It's just my choice. Another thing is that some people, kind of a fifth area, is the choice is easier. It requires less effort. In other words, I've chosen what I'm going to do because it's an easier job, not because I like it. That's just an easier job for me to do. And some of you fall into that. And you have taken positions simply because they were easier, had less hassle, less problems, so you've gone in that direction. And of course, the next one, lack of occupational knowledge, kind of ties into some of the others we have sort of mentioned here. Some people just don't know anything else. I've just never considered anything else. Why did you become this? I really don't know. I've really never considered being anything other than what I am today. So that's something that you also need to consider as you're looking at why you made the choice to do what you're doing today. Another reason is that your friends were in that business, that your friends were in the business. In other words, people said, hey, why don't you join this particular type of work? Just come on in. It's the best thing to do. And so you get into a business just because people you know are there. We've had that happen at Texas State University, why some people come to our university. We found that the great recruiter for our program particularly is actually friends. Someone says, have you ever thought about obtaining your degree? The other end was, yeah, I'd sure like to, but I just don't have time. They say, well, consider distance learning with occupational ed. Another reason why people have chosen a career are repeated failures. In other words, Springer becomes a plumber and blow all the pipes in a place. Springer then becomes an electrician and burns a house down. Then I become a baker and I burn the bakery down by doing something wrong. And so I have done all of these different careers and find that, you know, I'm not doing very good. So finally, I take a career that's less safe for me, or safer for me and safer for the other people around me. And so sometimes it's by repeated failures. That's why I choose a career. I'm searching, and I finally find the niche that I've looked for. So that's important. Repeated failures. Well, what we want you to do is, as you're thinking and you're watching this, look at that open door. Why don't you review the major choices you've had? List them. Why you have made these choices in your career. And analyze why you made the choices. Compare the reasons with some that have been listed here. Why have you made the choices? And this is kind of an interactive type thing, today's lesson, for you to consider this. Why did you make them? And compare them with the reasons. Why did you do what you did? Now, we talked about goal setting earlier in this course, and now you're looking at the reasons you've made your choices. I think it's a neat thing to do. So our conclusion then of this part of it is the fact that you need to sort it out for yourself. Now, there are some theories that are more professional theories, numerous theory in text from years past. You may find it on the web. Sometimes they're just theories. Some of the theories have no empirical basis. The following discussion is based on theories, and we want you to determine if they have validity in your experience. So there are people who have come up with these ideas, and we want you to consider them. And they may help you to figure it out a little bit. Also, those of you who have teenage children, they're going to be deciding what they're going to do, college, technical school, job, military, wherever. They're going to decide. So maybe with some of these theories, you'll be able to have an idea. Peters and Hansen had a book called Vocational Guidance and Career Development. It's an old book. It's an excellent description of the major theories. I want to talk about them. A fellow by the name of Eli Ginsberg said that choice is a process. In addition, the process is mostly irreversible and a compromise. That's an interesting point. So in other words, I make this choice that we talked about earlier, and the process is mostly irreversible. In other words, once I get into this, it's hard to change. Don't you feel that way? Those of you who are 40+ years old, it's hard to make a new choice. It's hard to do that. And also, we've made a compromise. For instance, if I can't do this, sometimes I compromise on that. I have changed that. So Eli Ginsberg says that's important. And so Ginsberg then says that a person chooses a career which enables he or she to use as many talents as possible and satisfy as many of the values and goals. So in other words, you use all the talents that you have, and you satisfy as much as you can in your life. And I imagine many of you have done that. You've tried to satisfy your values and goals, and you've done the best you could. You've looked for it, and you said, well, I'm just trying to find out if I can use all my talents. I'm a good speaker. I'm a good listener. I can do mathematical problems well. So here's the type of career that I've gone into. And plus, if your goal was to make a lot of money, you know certain careers do not make a lot of money. I always enjoy when people say, oh, I'm going to be a teacher, and we're going to buy all this, and we're going to buy that. Well, as this presentation is being made, teachers do not make the highest salary based upon a comparison of their education and other positions. So when I state that I'm going to make more money, this doesn't help me. There's another thing that Ginsberg talks about. He believes that we go through a period of 3 stages. The fantasy stage up to 11 years in age. This is when you want to be a firefighter, you want to be a pilot, you want to be a police officer, something of that nature. You go through that in early life to 11 years old. Some of you then move to the tentative choices from 11 to 17, and you're saying, well, I'm going to go to college at UT or Harvard or Texas A&M or Texas State. I'm going to those schools. Then from 17 on, you make realistic choices. You start actually being forced into choices. Ginsberg says that you make realistic choices because some of the things that I thought were realistic as a high school student are not now. For instance, maybe I wanted to have gone to Harvard University, and my scores on my test were not high enough in high school. So I've changed my sights and gone to another school. So you make different choices that way in the realistic period. It may be possible that some of us, as we get older, we might go back to the fantasy choices and say, you know, when I was a kid, I wanted to do this. I sure wish I'd have done that. And there are sometimes regrets that we have based upon our career. Now, there's a fellow by the name of Donald Super, and that's an old theory. He had 10 propositions. We're just going to kind of summarize it. Recommended you explore his theory. He's one of the pioneer developers. He says that people differ in ability, interests, and personalities, which qualify them for a number of occupations. In other words, all of us could have gone into numerous occupations. Some people say that we're going to change our positions 6 to 10 times. Others are now talking about even more. But Donald Super says that you differ in your interests, your abilities, and whatever this is, it qualifies you for a number of occupations. Each occupation requires a pattern of abilities, interests, and traits. Super believes choice and adjustment's a continuing process. So in other words, this is a continuation. You don't just make this decision. It goes through a series of life stages. We also saw from Ginsberg believe the same thing. So you may also see this as important too to think about it, is that you're going through stages in life and you're making choices. Now some of us have had to abruptly move to another stage and make great changes or go backwards because people get laid off as they are in their 50s because of potential age discrimination. So there's been changes that have adjusted. But Super believes there's a choice and you do these adjustments in various stages. So my conclusion to at least this first aspect of it is that work and satisfaction depend on the extent which the person finds adequate outlets for these abilities. Super gives a lot of excellent reasons to explain unhappy workers, doesn't he? Because if I don't find an adequate outlet for my ability, if I do not come to the workplace each day and find a way to get the things out in the open that I like to do, it becomes drudgery, and I can be underemployed, and I can continue to suffer. And a lot of you are suffering in the positions you're in now. You want something else. And so this is very important. Now I want to talk a little bit about a few other additional theories. There are a lot of people who have ideas about what you and I are doing and why we got here. There's another theory called the talent theory. It indicates you just gravitate towards types of work which match their talents. Now, I'd ask you here what problems you see with this theory. You discover the talents, and I want to ask you, is it realistic to believe that individuals discover their talents in time to find the right career? This is not necessarily true. Can you think about that? That I might be looking for my career, and I'll just stagger around looking for that career over and over and just not reach it. So I have problems with the talent theory. But this is a theory that's been brought up, that we just kind of gravitate toward the right thing. Now, I could be 80 years old before I find out what my talents are. And this has happened where people have finally discovered at a later age in life their talents. Now, this is not saying that we want to put them back in their old job. This is just saying, wouldn't it have been nice to have found my talent earlier on? But some of us, it doesn't happen that way. So that's an issue that we want to consider. There's also the roadmap theory. I kind of think that's neat. Roadmap theory tells us that adults move along a highway in life and often detour on the road in their quest for right career. So going to Dallas from Austin, they go to Houston first. So as an example, those of you who know this area in Texas know that wouldn't be a good thing to do. So I'm traveling to reach that particular town or reach that particular area, and I want to get there, but I end up doing detours. You know, there's people that have had a desire early in life to reach a certain goal, and they detour, they get off on their way to Dallas, they stop at Hillsboro and Killeen and all those types of things, work a few years, and finally they reach the career that they wanted in Dallas, Texas. But that may mean some of our roadmaps last a long way too, that we may still, in much of our life, try to reach this. So what I would say that we would want your career to become stronger because you chose it, because you actually systematically chose your career. And there is time for you to do that right now. There's time for you to do that. This course, as we said, you're writing competency statements talking about your jobs that you have held, all of your skills, and you're discussing them, and you're knowing right now where you are as far as the skills and abilities that you have. You're looking at your career goals, you're looking at your educational goals, you're looking at your personal goals. And this gives you a chance to make all these changes that we've talked about during this course. You're writing, or should have written the articulation. You know, we're getting late in the course now as you're working on it, if you're going sequentially, like I said. But the roadmap theory tells you, you know, you've made some detours, so get back on the road then to try to see if you can reach the points you want to be. Now, in the early 1900s, there was a fellow named Frank Parsons, and he had a real simplistic idea. He said, essentially, you match your interest, then match the interest to employments. It didn't really shed much light, but I thought I'd mention it anyway, because some people will know Frank Parsons' writings and information. So you take your interest, match it with employment. Very simple. Somebody will say to you, just do what you like to do. Well, that's kind of a Frank Parsons approach. What do you like to do? Match it up with a job. The problem is sometimes I'm not aware of the job that I want to work in. I just don't know about it, as we've talked about earlier. So these are all important, as we can see. Do you have a theory? I'm going to ask you. How do you account for it? Did you get here by accident, design, default, or you don't know? Look at the theories. And I want you to answer the question yourself. How did you end up here? How did you make these decisions? What steps did you take in your career? What steps did you take to be here? How did you get here? So I want to end this lesson by one last admonition. The course that you're in should help you make decisions that will guide you in the work in your future. If you'll go back and listen to these lessons on the goals, go back and look at these career theories again, go back and read any handouts or any electronic documents that your professor has provided you, and as you create the job task analysis, analyze yourself again. You've gone back, look at that again. Look at what you've done, and then look at the road ahead of you. So hopefully this will help you make some decisions. Read all you can. Go back to the Occupational Ed website. Stay in close contact with that throughout this course and beyond the course as you finish up your degree, because it has a lot of material. Navigate it. Go through it. Thank you very much for listening and watching this lesson.